You're listening to a Better Live Than Dead Extracast.
Now Foligno plays it back across. It's his goal. Scores! Jack Eichel's first National Hockey League goal.
Foligno going in. Score! Back it comes now. Ristolainen, the shot's gone.
Robin Leonard's out of his net. He's got a hold of Johnson, and Robin Leonard trading him with Johnson. Off go the gloves for Robin Leonard.
Ryan O'Reilly rifles it home, and Buffalo wins it in overtime.
How is it going, my friends of the BLTD Sports podcast, as well as BLTDsports.com? I am Ryan Wolfe, at WolfeBLTD on Twitter, joined on the line now by my buddy, Brayton Wilson, at BJ Wilson WGR. And what we're here to do today, we're going to talk about the Buffalo Sabres. We're going to talk about the first month of the hockey season. It is the end of October as we record this podcast. The Buffalo Sabres have a successful first month in the books, 8 games down into an 82-game season. And we may not know everything about what's going to happen with the Buffalo Sabres, but we're getting a good idea of where this team may head. But before we talk about that, I want to bring Brayton into the podcast and ask how you doing today, man.
Well, I'm doing much better now after almost losing my mind with the Bills.
Hey, as long as no dildos get thrown at us while we are recording the podcast, we're fine.
Oh God, man! I how the hell do you get a dildo into the game? And don't answer that question because it's a rhetorical one. But
I just don't know. I honestly don't know. I tried to figure it out. I've got a couple.
I don't blame the referees for taking it off the field. I wouldn't want to touch that thing.
Yeah, well, apparently some of our friends on Twitter, friends of the BLTD Sports website, made mention that it did not move. It stayed there at the stadium. So maybe it's like a good luck omen. Maybe the Buffalo Bills season turns around and Monday Night Football, they beat the Seahawks and make a charge for the playoffs, and maybe it becomes a good luck charm.
Case it in the Buffalo Bills Hall of Fame and say this was the dildo that turned our season around and helped us win our first Super Bowl, if that happened.
I mean, maybe. Crazier things have happened.
No kidding.
But speaking of crazy things, we'll talk about the Buffalo Sabres. First off, real quick, right off the bat, we said 8 games. They just played Winnipeg this afternoon. As of recording, it is October 30th. So they played Winnipeg this afternoon, an impressive 3-1 victory over the Jets. Buffalo has played 8 games. They are 3-3-2, 8 points. They are currently 7th in the Atlantic. As of this recording, they are 7th in the Atlantic. They are, if you're into this right now, they're a point out of a wild card position. I mean, if you want to look at it that way. Right now, the Sabres aren't doing horrible. They're without, just to kind of a brief overview if you've been living under a rock, without Jack Eichel, without Evander Kane. They're now without Nick Delorier, which he brings to the table what he brings to the table, but he has suffered a knee injury.
Hudson bashing too.
Yeah, Nick Delorier suffered a knee injury Saturday the 29th, and then Hudson Fasching suffered a groin injury. Don't know the severity, but Dan Bilesma did point out they're likely going to have to recall a forward from Rochester for practice on Monday, and then Tuesday, November 1st, when they play Minnesota, they'll probably have a different face in the lineup, and that might be, it could be, it'll probably be just kind of a quick glimpse here. It could either be Cole Schneider, who is tearing up the AHL right now. He's one of the top scorers in the AHL, or it could be Justin Bailey. But we will see when we get there. We cross that bridge when we get there. But as for the Buffalo Sabres, some very good signs so far. It's difficult because the Sabres haven't been fantastic by any stretch of the imagination. But there have been some things that have stood out. And we can run over those real fast, and we can run over the disappointments as well, people we want to see more from. But I'll start right at the top. Kyle Okposo, big free agent signing in the offseason. He's shown up. 7 points in 7 games, 4 goals, 3 assists. You've got Ryan O'Reilly, who hasn't missed a beat in 8 games. He has 7 points, 3 goals, 4 assists. You've got Rasmus Ristolainen, 7 assists in 8 games. Matt Molson, Brian Giunta have combined for 10 points. Molson with 4 goals and an assist, Giunta with 3 goals and 2 assists. I mean, that right there kind of sums it up. I mean, there have been some very impressive guys. I mean, I didn't expect Matt Molson to make a turnaround. And again, it's 8 games into the season, but Molson has scored in 4 goals in 8 games. That's impressive. I mean, he seems to have turned it around, and Brian Giunta seems to have continued his hot stretch from the end of last season, brought it over to this season, large in part because of the Foligno, Larson, Giunta line that has been killer. I mean, on Saturday, I was actually at the game and for the website, and just watching that line essentially become like a shutdown line. And when everything shakes out, they'll probably be the third line. But if they can be a shutdown third line against other teams' talent, I mean, that could be something that could certainly push the Sabres up a little further. But I want to get your thoughts, Brayton. What are some positives so far that you have from these first few games into the season?
Well, I certainly think that the response that the Sabres have had over the past couple of games has been really positive. Especially after losing a couple of tough games in Calgary, Vancouver, and Philadelphia, and then just completely not showing up for 40 minutes against Minnesota. I think that the past 2 games have been really nice bounce-back games. I think they've played a complete game each of those games. And, I want to agree with you on your point with Okposo. He was one of the most, he wasn't talked about as one of the big free agent signings. And granted, he is a huge free agent signing, especially for the Sabres, but it was more about the whole Milan Lucic signing and a couple of other moves that were made during the offseason. But the signing that the Sabres made with Kyle Okposo has really, really worked out so far. And I think Okposo is playing as well as I've seen him play ever in his career. He's skating hard. He's in on every play. He's really aggressive with the puck, without the puck. He's always on the puck. He just seems like one of the fastest guys out there for the Sabres. And that's a really, really good sign to see, especially for a team that was without 2 of their fastest guys in Jack Eichel and Evander Kane. I've been really, really impressed with the Foligno, Larson, Giunta line. Again, they're showing that they're a really good third, fourth line shutdown presence for the Sabres. And a couple of other players, Matt Molson bounced back from a really disappointing turnout last year, scoring goals. And I think that aside from guys like Josh Georges and, Cody Branson, I think top 4 defense has played relatively well. There's been a couple of, lapses in their games, of course, with guys like Zach Bogosian, even Dmitry Kulikov, and even Rasmus Ristolainen and Jake McKay. But the fact is that all 4 of those guys, they're showing that we have a top 4 that is capable of being consistent in the NHL. Rasmus Ristolainen is obviously Buffalo's number 1 defenseman right now. I think Dmitry Kulikov, in his start with the Sabres, he missed the first game due to his what Dan Miles would call the butt bruise. But I think that Kulikov has looked very, very impressive, in my opinion. I know that a couple of people still hate the fact that they traded Mark Pezic to get him, but I think Kulikov brings something to the Sabres defense that they haven't had in years. A big physical body who's not afraid to throw around his weight, and a guy that can contribute on both ends of the ice, offensively and defensively. And for people that say, you got rid of one of your best analytics guys, I get that. But the fact is, you got another guy that I think can be very capable of what Mark Pezic was doing, and that's Casey Nelson. Granted, he hasn't played very much this season. He played in 1 game, but, I think that the top 4 defense is starting to come together and show, hey, we're going to be the top 4. We're the top 4 for a reason. And the guys that you mentioned and the line, I've been, aside from the 4-game streak that we really were just awful in, I think the Sabres have bounced back in these past 2 games. And I think that November, I know there's a lot of games this month. I think there's 15 games this month coming up. But I think that the Sabres are showing that, they're ready for next month. I think that they're ready to show that, hey, we had this bad stretch. It's time to bounce back. And these 2 wins are really feel-good wins against a couple of teams who are young, who have a lot of good experience on these teams and that are pretty darn good in the NHL right now.
Now, looking at some disappointments here, I mean, there are quite a handful. There are a few things that the team. I mean, the Sabres have been, when they're good, they're good. When they're bad, they're really bad. That's kind of what we've grown to know and love about these Buffalo Sabres year in and year out. Is when, like I said, they're good, they're bad, they're real bad. Obviously, injuries, you can't predict injuries, but seeing Eichel go down before the season, see Kane go down in the first game. I mean, you seeing even Delorier. I know Delorier hasn't played great. He doesn't really have a role aside from not just being a very good hockey player, but whatever it may be. Derek Grant, after the offseason hype of having a fantastic camp, he has completely leveled back out. No points in 8 games. He's a -3. The only time he got on the score sheet was 2 penalty minutes. So I mean, he's for I mean, lack of a better word, he's just disappointing. Not certainly what anybody expected, but it's you see guys like Josh Georges who you expected to take another step back. He's still playing with Rasmus Ristolainen right now, playing big minutes, and that's not going to work out most of the season. You see a guy like Cody Franzen who again looks like he has continued to take a step back. For Franzen, we've talked about this Brayton ad nauseum at this point, but for a guy like Franzen playing a Jake McCabe role, where Jake McCabe's playing 12 to 14 minutes a night, and
which is mind-boggling to me. He should be getting
mind-blowing, because McCabe is a damn good hockey player, but give Franzen 12 to 14 minutes a night, handful of those minutes on the power play, because when Franz is on the power play, we've seen it this season. He can still be explosive because he's very good on the back end in a power play situation. But when it comes to playing normal minutes, he doesn't seem like he's very good. The other thing, too, and this might take some time, so I'm not going to lay it on too thick. Plus, I know there are a lot of Tyler Ennis fans out there who are friends of the podcast, fans of the website, all that stuff, and I don't want to lay it on too thick here. But in due time, Ennis is going to have to pick it up. And I know he has only played 8 games in like the past almost 10 or 11 months. So in due time, maybe this month with more games, he'll kick into high gear and he'll get it figured out. But 2 points from Tyler Ennis in 8 games, a goal and an assist, and a -4, that's miserable. And that's not what you want to see from Tyler Ennis at all. And that's one of the, for me, that's one of the bigger question marks for the Sabres, is with having Eichel out, with having Kane out, with having your depth tested, with Fasching being out, with Delorier being out, with guys being ineffective. When are some of these bottom 6 guys going to step up and say, okay, you know what, I'm going to take the reins here and go from and see what I can do?
Yeah, I mean, I just there's been plenty of disappointments, I think, early on this season, and the past couple of games we've seen some of those guys bounce back quite nicely. But I'm really, really upset that a guy like Jake McCabe isn't getting more minutes. I mean, as I just said, he's one of the top 4 defensemen on the team, and I made a prediction at the early part of this year, one of my bold predictions on Twitter, that Jake McCabe's going to develop into the top defenseman on the team with the left-handed side. Not the top defenseman overall, that's Ristolainen, but he's going to be the top left-handed defenseman. And I still think he's going to get there, because I think Kulikov and Bogosian they're both playing so well together, I don't think you want to split them up. And I think that both of them complement each other very well. So, I think eventually during the course of the year, I think that we can see some change there. I don't know if you want to change much right now, because I don't know if you want to have a cinder block line or cinder block pairing for your bottom pairing with Georges and Brayton on the ice. But one guy that I've been kind of disappointed with, and granted, I think it's because he's still a little banged up. He's not 100%, is Ryan O'Reilly. I think that, compared to what he was doing last year, he was their top centerman. He was doing a lot of good work on the faceoff, and he's been doing some considerable work. But to me, it just doesn't seem like he's got that full step. And again, I think it attributes to he's not 100%, which is unfortunate. I still think he's got something going on with his mid to lower body area. That was the correct injury that was labeled on him. But with Ryan O'Reilly, I think that he's not healthy, and I hope he gets healthy soon, like 100%. When I think he is, I think he's certainly going to be more effective than he is. But yeah, I completely agree with you with Tyler Ennis. He's got to step up his game. He did score the other night against Philadelphia, which is good to see. Good to see him get on the scoreboard. But that line with him, Gergensen, and Reinhart has been kind of ineffective so far, and that's kind of disappointing because with a young guy like Reinhart, I thought he would have been a nice add-on to that. He's a playmaker, but Tyler Ennis is the type of player he wants to be the playmaker, where he's got to be more of a guy that shoots the puck and puts pucks on the net and creates chances that way instead of holding onto the puck forever, just skating around with it, and then when you finally decide to make a play, it's already too late. So, I just think that some of those areas that, the Sabres have been disappointing in, I think that they're looking a little bit better. But some guys that are on the team definitely have to step up. And, of course, with Ryan O'Reilly, it's disappointing to see him not play well, but I think it's just because it's injuries. I'm not saying that he's been terrible this year. I'm not saying that he's, super disappointing and why the Sabres are still playing him in the top line. It's just I want him to be healthy. That's just plain and simple.
Well, I mean, even if he's not playing 100% right now, it's incredible to see. The thing I was talking about earlier, because I don't know about you, Brayton. I know you work on the radio, so you have the ability to talk sports all the time. But sometimes I kind of just go into a little bit of like a black hole and start to just think out loud. And I was trying to think to myself, okay, well, it's early. Again, it's early. And Molson can certainly regress, which I fully expect him to, because at this point he's on pace for, doing the math really quick in my head, 41 goals, and that's not going to happen.
No.
Like that will not happen. There will be a regression at some point in time, but
maybe he gets 41 points, but not 41 goals.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm thinking, I mean, at this point, you can probably look at this point, just trying to gauge things out in my head when Jack Eichel and Evander Kane return, you can have like Molson, O'Reilly, and Okposo on the top line, because so far it's looked pretty damn good through 1 month of hockey. And if that's what works for Matt Molson, and that makes Matt Molson a better hockey player, because again, I think if you put Matt Molson on a line with younger guys who are faster, you're gonna weigh him down. And I really think the only place where you can get away with doing something like that, and this is complete apples to oranges, but like Jaromir Jagr in Florida, he absolutely is the anchor on the line he plays on, but it works because he has the talent. You put Matt Molson on a line with Reinhart and Eichel, we saw what happened last year. He was anchoring the line and he wasn't doing anything. So if you can put him with guys who are, I guess, a little more seasoned, like he is with, Okposo, a guy who played with for a very long time, and then O'Reilly, who can seemingly play with anybody at this point, maybe that works out. And then you look at the second line, you have, Eichel, you have Kane, Eichel, and Reinhart, and then the third line is Foligno, Larson, Gianta, and then the fourth line, whatever. You throw it together, you make it work. But, I mean, it certainly seems like the season's coming back together, and it's only been a month. And it's great because the Buffalo Sabres, again, as I just saw pointed out by our friend Matty Wren on Twitter as we were talking here, take a deep breath. The Sabres have 8 points in 8 games. If they continue to average that 82 points in a season, they can find points here or there. They'll be fine. It'll be okay. Because even with the worst games that the Sabres have played these last 8 games, Philadelphia being the one thing, the one game, the Flyers game, where Dan Bilesma and parked the bus in their own zone and said, we're going to just fend off every attack, and they didn't. And that was a game they should have won. We all know that. I mean, if it comes down to it, again, I keep saying this, it's early, but if it comes down to April and the Sabres are missing the playoffs by a point or two, you're going to look at games like that and go, if only, but again, it's early. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm just thinking, I'm thinking too positive down the road, but things are starting to come together. I mean, even like Robin Leonard, he struggled early. He got sick. He came back, and his first start back since being ill was pretty damn good. And Anders Nilsson, again, regression is going to happen. He's not going to throw a sub 2 goals allowed per game every time out. He's not going to throw a shutout every time he comes out on the ice. But if Anders Nilsson can be a 2-3 or a 2-4 goals allowed per game and, have a decent save percentage, that will help the Sabres out. If Robin Lehner can come back and be an above average goaltender, that'll help the Sabres out. Because, the game with Winnipeg being so fresh in our minds, you see what happened today. The Sabres offense wasn't great. They scored the goals they needed to. 2 from Okposo, 1 from Gianta. Perfect. Fantastic. Awesome. You have 3 goals. But Robin Lehner absolutely was on his game today. And there are going to be games where Robin Lehner will steal the game. Stuff like that. That's what happens throughout an entire season. We don't get to see that in the small stretch of 8 games. But over an 82-game season, we're going to see a lot of good stuff. And there's a lot of positives. I don't want to keep focusing on the negatives, but we need to keep those in perspective. But then again, remember, it's a long season, and a lot of stuff can happen, but things seem to be trending in the right direction.
Exactly. And the thing that I was kind of emphasizing, I was talking with a good colleague of mine, Dan Cave, today, that, at the point where after the Minnesota loss, people were saying, well, we should start questioning what's going on with Dan Biles. We should start questioning what's going on with the Sabres. At that point, it was 6 games into the season. Okay, it wasn't like the Anaheim Ducks last year where they were one of the worst teams through the first month and a half of the year, and then they miraculously came back and made the playoffs, but still Bruce Boudreau got fired at the end of the year. This isn't that situation quite yet. I'm not saying let's question everything. Let's fire the head coach after 6 games. If it would have continued for the next 20 games, then I would start saying, okay, now it's time to start questioning the coach. Now it's time to question what the hell's going on here. It's way too early at this point. We're 8 games into the season, and these last 2 games have been nice, and the first 2 games were really, really shaky. But the fact is, guys, they take a little bit of time. Robin Lehner, he looked really good from what I've seen. What I saw today, it looked like he had his rebound control in check. He looked like he wasn't giving up any horrendous opportunities, and he made 37 saves, against the team in Winnipeg, who lately have been known for shooting the puck a lot, creating a lot of offensive opportunities with guys like Scheifele, Laine, Ehlers, these young scoring forwards that are just really good and will have many good years to come in this league. But the fact is that Buffalo, it's, again, 8 games in, let's not panic right away. And again, if the play that they had in the 4-game losing streak, if that would have continued for another 15, 20 games, then I would have started saying, okay, this may not be going in the right direction. Like, what's going on here? But the past 2 games have shown that, it was probably just a hiccup because some of these guys looked awesome over the past 2 games. Again, Okposo looked really good. And, Lehner looked really well. And Nilsson was really good yesterday. Guys just need a little bit of time sometimes to just get in the groove of the season. It may take a few games. It may take 8 games. It may take 15 games in the season. But the Sabres are looking like they're finding themselves right now. And it may take a little bit of time for when a guy like Evander Kane or Jack Eichel come back to the lineup too. Jack Eichel's most likely not going to come back from his high ankle sprain being able to skate 100% full speed like he was before and scoring hat tricks all the time, making these awesome, crazy plays. It'll probably take him a few games to get back in the swing of things. That's why when he comes back, I'm not expecting him to score a bunch of points. I'm going to expect him to kind of just take it easy, get back in the groove of things, because when he was at the World Cup, he was playing quite well. He was at full speed. He was, up to pace. But now that he's had this time off, and it's going to be a huge mental, a mental thing for him, he's got to get back up to speed. He's got to be able to get back into the pace of the NHL play. I think he can, and I think that it'll take a few games. And the same with Evander Kane coming back from, a pretty significant rib injury for him. So to say the panic early on is just ridiculous at this point. Yeah, they looked really ugly the Minnesota game, and they looked ugly in the third period against Philadelphia. But to say that the season's completely lost based on, nearly a full game of action it was completely beyond me of that thought.
I'm just, again, everybody knows me by now. I am the worst when it comes to remaining positive and remaining remaining positive and just remaining glass half full, essentially. But things have trended in the right direction. There's a lot of things that Dan Bilesma still does that really, really, really get under my skin. Like when the Sabres are in overtime, Dan Bilesma decides to coach proactive. He doesn't coach aggressively.
There's some things that Dan Bilesma has done over the past few games, especially in 3-on-3 overtime, that's been like, what? You haven't figured this out yet? Like, why haven't you got the concept of 3-on-3 yet? I mean, what are you doing?
And I'm not sure
in overtime.
And I'm not sure if it's a trust factor, if it's we're good enough where we can win in a shootout, or if it's just he doesn't trust the players he has. But then again, you look at he's not a bad coach. We like to joke around and crap all over him because he makes some poor decisions, but every coach does. It's just magnified more when the team is not the Blackhawks or something like that. So it's something where we continually harp on it because we want to see a winner happen yesterday. We want the Sabres winning yesterday. So when Dan Bilesma may essentially overcoach and make a wrong decision based off of a hunch or based off of, well, this is what was going on before, so this is what I'm going to do next time or this time or whatever it may be, and then it blows up in their face. It's something that we're very hard on him for, and I understand that because we live hockey, Brayton. I don't know if you knew that. We sharpened our swords because we live hockey. But I like the direction the team is going in. Again, there are some things where Bilesma makes me want to just take a railroad spike and drive it through my skull because you just go, what the hell are you doing? Like Dmitry Kulikov, for instance. Josh Georges is not anywhere near a top-line defenseman anymore. But for some reason, Dan Bilesma originally said, I'm going to work Kulikov up to the top pairing in due time because he had the ass bruise in preseason. And he was out of the swing of things. So they brought him back slowly. I get that. Cool. Wonderful. Fantastic. Okay, we're a month into the season now, 8 games into the year. Dmitry Kulikov is still not playing with Rasmus Ristolainen. I thought that was the purpose of trading Mark Pysyk to get Dmitry Kulikov to find someone to pair with Rasmus Ristolainen. But apparently, that's not going to happen. And I don't know if it's ever going to happen because for some reason, Dan Bilesma has this affinity for Josh Georges. I don't get it. I don't understand it, but it continues to happen. And then we suffer because we have to hear about how Rasmus Ristolainen is statistically the worst defenseman to ever play the game of hockey, to ever pick up a stick, whether it's professional or not, because he plays with Josh Georges. And I'm just, at some point in time...
Ristolainen is no Jack Johnson of the Columbus Blue Jackets, for crying out loud.
He
Jack
is not.
Johnson's been in the league for many, many years, and it's statistically proven he's very, very bad as a top defenseman. Yeah. He shouldn't even be a top defenseman in the league, but with the role that he has in Columbus, he's obviously the top defenseman.
And certainly we don't want that to happen in Buffalo. We don't want it to be where Ristolainen is forcefully pushed with Georges just because they have to have him there. No, we want the best players. We as fans, not we as the team, because I don't want to cross that line there, but we as fans would like to see the best players playing the most meaningful minutes, playing against the most meaningful players. And if it means splitting up, having Bogosian and Kulikov, whatever. But Georges, it's just not working out. Like, it's worked out decent. Okay, Ristolainen's been great. He's got a lot of power play points. He's almost a point-a-game player at this point in time in the season. But at some point in time, you have to scratch your head and wonder, hey, is Rasmus Ristolainen playing with Georges all year, or is it going to be Kulikov? Or are they going to go out and trade for Cam Fowler or trade for player X, Y, or Z? Like, you got to do something because this is not going to work out the whole season. It's not working out for 8 games. But again, take a deep breath, take a step back, look forward. The Sabres have 14 games in November. So they play almost, again, if you're not good at math, I'm going to help you out here. The Sabres play almost double the games that they've already played. So we're going to learn a lot about this team. Either we're going to learn a lot about prospects because guys are hurt. We're going to learn a lot about the offense, the defense, goaltending, all that stuff, because they play some good teams too. No slouches out there. So I'm not going to do predictions or anything because that's stupid. At least for a month, it's stupid. But I want to see, for me personally, I want to see some improved defensive playing. I want to see some more depth scoring. I want to see guys like Ennis get it together. Foligno maybe put some up. Because Larson. I mean, Larson would be nice to see him score a couple more goals. Scored his first goal of the game of the season on Saturday. It was a very nice goal. I kind of sound like Donald Trump there for a second. I'm sorry that I just can't do that. He scored his first goal. Very nice goal. It was bigly, But anyways, I'm getting off topic here. But just more depth scoring. Maybe see Derek Grant get one, or some guy. If Nick Baptiste stays up, continue to. He's playing a lightning game. Like I love the game that Nick Baptiste plays at this point in time. It's almost like he doesn't know any better, so he just plays balls out 110% every time he steps on the ice, and that's fantastic to watch because, I mean, let's be honest, that's what got him to the NHL. That's what he was successful in the AHL because of it, and it really has raised a lot of eyebrows, and a lot of people are paying attention to him because of that, and it's fun to watch him bring that game to the National Hockey League. Just hopefully he can keep it up.
Right, yeah. And Nick Baptiste has to play like that at the NHL level. I mean, there's not a lot of players that play like that at the NHL level who are just all out all the time, skating hard, trying to throw your body around, make these really nice offensive plays. And, a line like the Larson-Foligno-Gianta line is one of those lines that, you see them right now. They're obviously the second line for the Sabres at this point. Eventually during the season, you want, especially with these guys like Justin Bailey and Nick Baptiste, I don't know who the Sabres are going to recall from Rochester right now, whether it's Schneider or Baptiste or not Baptiste, but Bailey or what have you. The fact is that eventually during the year, you want to see the line with like Foligno, Larson, Gianta go down to a third line role. And even if you have the right talent and mix and everything like that, maybe you could see them go to the fourth line, but still be effective the way they are. I mean, it's just one of those lines that it can flex from either your second line or to your fourth line. And it depends on who else is on the team, of course. But right now they're the second line because Ennis, Reinhart, Jurgensen haven't been playing up to par. And of course you've got guys like Delorier and Derek Grant on the team still. But eventually down the road, you'd want to see a line like that play a third, fourth line type of role, and then have other guys who can score and produce, like a guy like Baptiste, maybe eventually Justin Bailey. But right now, what I want to see out of the Sabres is just keep playing a full 60 minutes of hockey. Last night, yesterday's game, today's game, that's 60-minute hockey there for you. Good, solid play. Yeah, maybe you get outshot by a lot, but you know what? You play solid defense. When you're in the offensive zone, you're playing, you're aggressive, you're getting pucks to the net when you get the chance. And when you're in your own zone, you're responsible, you're taking away opportunities, and your goaltending is just playing, with they're on fire, of course. The fact is, I want to see guys like Tyler Ennis step it up. I want to see even a guy like Sam Reinhart play a little bit better. I get it. He's on a line with Tyler Ennis and Zemgus Jurgensen. But you know what? Reinhart last year, with the way he was playing, especially towards the second half of the year, he was playing some really good NHL hockey. And so far this year, I wouldn't say he's been disappointed, but I think at times he just, I don't know what it is with Reinhart. I think sometimes, when he's on that top line with Ryan O'Reilly and Kyle Okposo, he was playing his normal self. But when he had to shift to center, I think that his responsibility shifted, and I think that forced him to change his game a little bit. But I want to see him get back to his old game. I want to see Zemgus Jurgensen maybe start taking more face-offs, and Reinhart go back to the wing, play a little bit more that way. And I know that Reinhart's a responsible kid, and I know that he's a smart hockey player, but I think that for some reason, I think he sees the ice, and I think he's a little bit more of a playmaker when he's playing that wing role. But I mean, we'll see. But I definitely want to see everything, especially over the past two games, with playing a full 60 minutes of hockey. Keep that up. Keep playing that style of hockey. If you can do that, you're going to climb up the standings, and you're going to be contending for a playoff spot when it comes time to March, April, the go-to time for the Sabres.
No, I certainly think, I was thinking about this as you were breaking that down for us. I really think that, I mean, it wouldn't be bad if the Sabres called up Cole Schneider, but I certainly wouldn't mind. I mean, for a little time at least, give it a shot. Maybe sticking, Bailey, Grant, and Baptiste on the fourth line. Give them 10 minutes a game and see what they can do. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, you give kids the opportunity. I mean, even if Cole Schneider comes up, same thing. Give kids the opportunity to prove that they can hang in that National Hockey League. That's all you need to do, because that lights a fire under everybody. Because then they know, jobs could be on the line, all that stuff. But right now, there's not really much of a competition. But hey, you know what? Like I said, 14 games on the docket in November. We'll be back sometime during November to talk more sports or something. I don't know, but certainly we'll do this again at the end of November and talk more Sabres. Brayton, before I let you go, is there anything else that you would like to mention here on the podcast today?
I don't think so. I think that I think people just need to come off their high horses a little bit with the whole. Well, the season's already over. Let's start planning for the first overall pick. No, just relax. 8 games in, Sabres have played a really nice couple of games. Yesterday and today. Relax. It's okay. 8 games in. November's going to be a busy month, but if the Sabres can play just as well as they did in the past 2 games, even the game against Edmonton, if they can play that brand of hockey and start playing more consistently, the Sabres are going to be just fine. Even if they're losing games by a goal or losing games, in overtime or shootouts, if they're playing that brand of hockey, playing hard, nitty-gritty hockey, and producing and coming out with really nice results, there shouldn't be anything to worry about.
Well, hey, and don't forget, if the Buffalo Sabres can even play 500 hockey between now and Christmas, don't forget they get Jack Eichel back. And even I think
back by Thanksgiving.
Well, hey, I'm going far, because I've seen it, Brayton. We've seen it happen 100 times. I'm going the far side of the recovery, but even by Christmas, you say Thanksgiving, I'll say Christmas. It's only 4 weeks, but we'll just say in between then, Eichel comes back. Jack Eichel won't be at 100% because we've seen, as we said, high ankle sprains last a long time. It may take him the whole year to recover. We don't know. But even Jack Eichel at 75% is better than most players at 100%. So, and not to mention, too, having Eichel back centering Sam Reinhart may do wonders for Sam Reinhart. So either way, it'll be good to have Eichel back. So just continue to step forward one game at a time. And like I said, even if you play 500 hockey, even if the Sabres play 500 hockey and through 30, what is it? It would be 22 games. Even if 22 games, they had like 30 points or 25 points. That's huge. Just keep moving forward slowly but surely. Like I said, game by game. And hey, we'll see what happens when January, February, March rolls around. Who knows? But like I said, this has been the October in Review cast. The adorable little hockey name we made up. BLTD podcast. I'm Ryan Wolfe at Wolfe BLTD, joined on the line again by, Brayton Wilson at BJ Wilson, WGR on Twitter. Check us out, bltdsports.com, facebook.com/BLTD Sports, Twitter at BLTD Sports. And again, just stay tuned. We'll have more for you. We appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for listening.